Welcome back, boys and girls. Today we will be reading the story of the White House. Our last mentor text was School Days, and we discovered that was informational text. Well, guess what? The story of the White House is also, you got it, informational text. So it's going to provide facts about actual people, places, and events. It's going to teach us about things that were real. So it has maps, timelines. Timelines are kind of like number lines, but instead of just regular numbers, they use dates. And by those dates, they're going to put the events that happened so you can remember quickly by looking at it, the date and what happened. These visuals help people to better understand the information in these texts. So let's go ahead and make some predictions about this text. I'm going to turn the page. I'll zoom in on the map. Did you see what I see? There's nothing underneath the picture here. There's no caption. And let's see if that's true for this other one. Is there a caption here? There's no caption there either. School Days had captions. Let's turn the page and look at the next page. Let's make predictions. Whoa, does that look like it's in the future? Present day? Does that look like we're going back in the past? Hey, that looks like my computer screen. Look at this timeline at the bottom. The heading of this timeline, let's see, technology comes to the White House. And see, look, there's this little star. And then I can look at the star and go up. First radio installed, looks like that was 1922. And they got their first radio in the White House. When did they get their email? Oh, they first got an email in, let me follow that star, 1992? Whoa, pretty cool. All right. Let's go ahead and read the story now. And follow along in your packet.
The story of the White House.
The White House in Washington, D.C. is home to the President, the First Family, and their pets. In 1791, George Washington chose the land for the new White House. However, he never lived there because it took many years to complete the mansion. Finally, in 1800, President John Adams and his family moved in. Many changes have taken place in the White House over the years. About 200 years ago, a fire burned much of the White House. Many rooms had to be rebuilt. The late 1800s brought major improvements. By 1853, bathrooms with hot and cold water made life easier for the president and his family. In 1879, Rutherford Hayes was the first president to have a telephone. The White House telephone number was the number 1. Electric lights replaced gas lamps in 1891. President Harrison and his wife feared turning on the new lights. They were afraid the new lights were unsafe. In modern times, presidents have made important speeches over radio and on television. Today, the internet helps the president communicate with people all the world. The White House even has a website. The future will bring even more improvements to the White House. What do you think they might be?
Technology comes to the White House. 1879. Telephone first used. 1891. Electric lights installed. 1922. First radio installed. 1952. White House appears on television. 1992. Email first used at the White House. Topic 8.
All right, boys and girls. So we learned about a lot of different things about the White House. Did that timeline help you understand the information a little better? Does it help you with the sequence, the order things happen in? Do those dates go in the right order? 1879, 1891, 1922, 1952, 1992. Yes, they do. From small to large. So let's talk about key events in the history of the White House. And we can use this timeline to help us. So one event that I remember reading about, it's actually not in this timeline, but if you go back a page, I remember right here in 1791, George Washington chose the land for the White House. And when you read, you look for more dates to help you keep the events in order, right? So look what we have here. We have 1800. President John Adams and his family moved in. 1853. Bathrooms with hot and cold water made life easier for the president and his family. And there's some time order words too. Do you remember our sequence words? First, next, then, last, finally. Can you find any of those sequence words in here? And then there's also this. About 200 years ago, the late 1800s. Those help signal time as well to help you keep things in the right order. So let's try this sentence. I think a key event in the history of the White House is because... Good. Yeah, that is a good one. Did you find it right here? I thought so too. I thought you might like that one too. The White House appears on television in 1952. Good job. So the first paragraph, if we go back, it introduces the subject of the text. A place called the White House is where it's located and who lives there. The next paragraph begins with the date 1791. This is long ago in the past, and the text tells me that in 1791, George Washington chose the land for the White House. So this is the first key event in the text. Then I read that it took many years to complete the White House. The author tells what happened to the White House and the order that the events took place. I predict the author will continue to use this text structure and tell me events in sequence. And you look for more dates and signal words as you read. So what happened first? The fire or hot and cold water in the White House bathrooms? How do you know? And what word helps you know exactly when major improvements happened in the 1800s? What exciting event happened in the White House after 1853? How do you know? And which improvement came first to the White House? The television or electric lights? Look for words like in modern times and today as you read again. go ahead and pause as you think about key events from the White House. And you try to answer my questions to help you remember those key details and key events. All right. Well, here are some key events that I remember. So in 1791, George Washington chose the land for the White House. 1800, President John Adams moved into the White House. And then in 1853, the White House had bathrooms with hot and cold water. And then I remember on the next page, 1879, the White House had a telephone. What else do you remember? Do you remember what happened in 1891? What about in modern times? What about the future? Remember, if you don't know what some of these words mean, try to understand them in context. So when I read the word complete, I'm not sure what it means. The White House was complete. So I look for context clues to help me figure it out. First, I look at the words around complete. The sentence says that it took many years to complete the mansion. I know if something takes many years, it might be about finishing something. I also read that finally, in 1800, President Adams moved into the White House. This tells me that the White House was finished or completed. So I think that complete means finish. And I use context clues as I read to find what unfamiliar words mean. Can you use context clues to try to figure out what improvements means? By the late 1800s. The late 1800s brought major improvements. What about communicate on page 21? Today, the internet helps the president communicate with people all over the world. You could show your knowledge by illustrating what you believe complete and improvements might mean, or writing a definition. So when I look at the timeline, right here, this feature, I read the title, and it will tell me what year the technology came to the White House. Next, I remember to read the timeline from left to right, and I can use my finger to follow along. First, look at the telephone that came. Can you guys see this? In color? Just kidding. Pictures weren't in color back then, were they? So how do you know when an event happened? Which direction do you read that timeline again? Did you remember to look at the photograph for each event? And then which technology came to the White House first? Was it the electric lights or the email? How do you know? Let's see if you can remember what some of those things are. What happened in 1922? That's right, the first radio was installed. And what happened in 1992? Yep, there it is. The first email was used at the White House. If you have somebody at home to practice with, they can call out a date, or you can call out a date, and you can try to remember which event happened at that time. In your packet, you are going to be doing this page. Today I read about a clear detail I found to be important was, and here you draw the picture. Remember, those dates, those are going to give you clues about Key details. So find a date and read around it to figure out your key details. So today we practiced several skills. We practiced. If you don't know what something means, try to figure it out in context clues. We practiced sequence by looking at signal words, and also the dates that things happen in by following a timeline. Boys and girls, the last thing was key details. And that is what you'll be writing about today. Enjoy!